Let's see here. Orzas team looks to be a little bit on the heavy side. We got the double behemoths. We got the Yeti. We got an ogre. We got a cyclops, a bear, a dark knight. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 heavy units. That could be a bit detrimental. The skeleton army is back once more. It could be a bit detrimental because Basilllisk has 2 Secutors, and as we saw from yesterday's matches, the Secutors can be very potent if they can get behind these heavies. Orzas' ogre does have, looks like a satyr and a berserker to hide with, and that will give them the distraction bonus if they decide to take that passive. It's gonna be extra awkward, yeah, because I'm just gonna be kind of chatting myself. My throat is gonna be exploding by the end of this. But if we look on here, we got like 7 heavies on this side. Over on Basilisk's side, we also have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 heavies. Heavies do reign a little bit harder in metered because they are able to obviously hit as often as they want, and heavies have the highest damage ratios and damage items in the game. If anyone watched the yesterday's match, Basilllisk is bringing back Ye Olde Bony Boy squad. I did reach out to them and let them know that the double undead summoner still can't work, but they cleared it. So it worked out yesterday for them, having 2 Bony Boys. It is what it is. We do have the, was that 1 Galder? But we have the Cultist here, which I think someone else's team had, but they didn't choose. The Cultist is, they did get buffed in latest Rags version. It gives them, I think their fear is a little bit longer. Maybe they do a little bit more damage. I'm trying to see here if there's any good skeleton counters. You have to be careful with the Death Knight. They can summon a skeleton, but they mostly use dark weapons, and dark weapons do reduce damage against the undead, if I'm remembering correctly. That might have gotten patched out in one of the more recent Rags patches, but seeing a Usus pick would be pretty hype. I think the only time we see Usus here is if both of the Secutors get in. I think we would see like a Usus and a Scorpion. Orzas has the Gungnir, but not really any other range units. Breath attacks are currently spells, so they can counter out the skeletons, and they're considered heavy, so it's big damage in return. I'm actually kind of interested by Orzas' team with the Usus being a medium unit, the Undead Legionnaire, and the Valkyrie. Those are very specialized medium units, whereas something like a regular Legionnaire or a Murmillo, little less specialized. Murmillos do have the range attacks, but they are, you know, toe-to-toe fighters still. The main problem with taking one of these mediums is Basilllisk has 9 heavy units. That is more than half his team due to one of the undead skeleton summoners and Ursula not technically being in the roster. That's 9 out of, that's exactly half. 9 out of 18 units are heavy. So if you take the Scorpion, a Usus, a Valkyrie, a Undead Legionnaire, or 2 of them at the same time, I think Basilllisk just takes double heavy and just goes to town. I'm not quite sure what you do to counter that. Orzas has the Berserker, which Berserkers are very strong in Rags. If they fall below half, they get wounded counter. If they fall below a quarter and you have it, they can turn invulnerable for like 2 or 3 turns, rage out, go ham. But the problem is getting set up on that. If they get one shot, they don't get any of that. If they're just below 1 quarter, or sorry, if they're just above 1 quarter, they don't get the invulnerability. And if you're just above 1 quarter and get smacked, you're probably going to die. We saw Basilllisk likes to put in the Bony Boys, and the Undead summons are medium units, counters out these Berserkers quite well. I think Berserkers personally come online closer to level 15, maybe level 20, due to the fact that they only equip a weapon, and I think they can also have light armor now, but their stat scaling makes them incredibly potent the higher the level you are, much like beasts. Level 10 Scorpions are starting to come online. They have a few poison moves, but they don't really fully come online until like level 15. The double behemoth is interesting. I don't know if you guys have used behemoth before, but mostly it's just like a standstill and counterattack machine, much like the bears are, but they can theoretically do more damage and take less damage due to how their abilities are set up. But the bears do have hibernation abilities, which allow for some sort of HP restoration. We do see the Peltist coming out on this side and the Gungnir. On Basilllisk's side, we're not seeing any dedicated range characters other than I guess the channelers are spell range characters, but we're not seeing any hard physical spell or hard physical range characters. Murmillo is kind of rangy, but against a heavy unit, they kind of fall apart unless they have a bleed shield equipped. But I don't think there's any unbreakable bleed shields at level 10, so you have to be careful about a Peltus or a Gungnir coming in with break shield. Galdir's in here. Pretty much a staple in most people's team is one Galdir. Let's see, Berserkers, you tend to find work better in meterless. Yeah, because the counter and the adrenaline are so strong and they have a really high hit chance. Crit smacking them down is just devastating. The Mongrel is in Orzas team. Someone else had a Mongrel, but they didn't pick it. No, they did pick the Mongrel. I honestly think the Mongrels are pretty good also starting around level 15. The kick attacks are based off of power and not damage stat, so they become more potent the more power you have, which scales with your level. And they also apply poison whenever they kick people, so looking around in here, we got the Cyclops on both teams. I don't know what their builds are. One of the Cyclops may have Hypnosis, which is incredibly powerful. Single turn charm, but if it's the last unit, you can charm them out and just win. Battle of Attrition, 1v1, Cyclops just wins that unmetered because you can hit the meter. We do see the Sakari right here. I don't think any other team has taken the Sakari. I like the Sakari. It has teleport abilities, high eye and eye, and it also has Fan of Knives, which is a cone, like 3-tile cone, half diamond ability. It can be really strong for a light unit to backstep behind some heavy units and then just Fan of Knives all of them in the back. It could be incredibly strong and apply bleeding if he's got bleeding weapons, or maybe with, what's it called? Abilities with Assassination. There's the Shank. Maybe not the Shank. I'm thinking of something else. It gives you like 4x backstab damage, not insta-kill. We banned insta-kill moves. Or insta-kill items. Other than that, I think we're about to jump right into it. We do have the double Sam Knight on Basilisk side. I still think Sam Knights are probably one of the strongest heavy units. They are survivable, and they probably deal some of the most damage. But with that, we're going to hop right into it, and we're going to see if my voice can hold out for 3 continuous solo matches of speaking. Let me let them know. I have let them know the game is going to start playing. Let me get my macro pad down in my lap here. Yeah, the Shank and the Shiv. One of them is an assassination, and one of them gets 4x backstab. Orzas is going to have first map pick here. They are going to take Scorched Oasis, which I believe has a slight advantage for player 1 due to bridge control. We'll see what the picks come out with here. They're both popping Ursula real quick, so that way they can look at the map draw. Yeah, so player 1 does have a slight advantage with that bridge control. Both players can have a center island, but Basilisk doesn't have a dedicated range character that just functions off of SP, so that center island's not as potent unless Orzas puts a ranged unit on that center island. If Orzas puts a ranged unit out there, that melee unit will just shred it. Interested to see what they're doing here. Okay, they were just poking around. We're going to see the Peltus. Oh, maybe. Maybe not. I think threatening a Peltus pick in this map is incredibly strong, because if you have a Peltus on that center island, the other person doesn't, it can just get free throws from the outside. Oh, they're hitting too many buttons here. Let me go pop in there really quick. Are you having issues passing the pick order?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought pressing B switched it to player 2.
If player 2 presses B, it should switch it to player 2 when you're on the map, like the map placement grid. So when you're here, if player 2 presses B, it should pull it back to player 2. There you go. All right, just a little resolution. Every annoying league on this map in the normal game. Yeah. The main issue with having that center island control is if your Peltist isn't close enough, it takes like 2-3 turns for them to get close enough. Whereas if you just set them up properly on this blob with the rest of the team, they are protected and they can just start throwing immediately. But on that center island, if they're not in range, you have to move. And by the time you get off that bridge, the opponent might already be meeting you. It can be pretty devastating for the Peltist. I think it would be better on this map for an archer that has like super range. An archer with super range would be able to fire off that platform and hit the starting team. Or we can see the ogre here. Maybe not. The Yeti pick. Orzas kind of goading Basilllisk here with the Yeti pick, begging him to take more undead. We got heavy and spell damage. A breath attack could be pretty devastating. Okay, we see a light pickup to maybe counter off that Yeti. The main issue with level 10 for these guys is they don't all have revive mechanics like they do at level 15. So I'm not quite sure what the undead squad's tactics are this time around. They don't have all those free revives. They're not sure about the placement. We were talking in the pre-game chat about rulings on who gets to place and who gets to pick characters first, and it seems like maybe for the next tournament we need to be a little bit more precise about how the picking order goes. We've new amended rule, which I will put in a channel somewhere. Whoever picks the map also picks first characters, so that way the other person gets a slight advantage clawback. But we didn't come up with any rules for placements. I'm gonna have to think of those up after this tournament's over, because I don't want to start implementing rules right in the middle that could have influenced earlier matches. Right now it just seems like a 1-1 placement that people are kind of going with here, and that's probably how we'll just keep it for now. But unfortunately for Orzas, since they had to place first, they can't force Basilllisk to put a unit on that middle island for free. Say Basilllisk had first pick, he would also have to place his last unit first. And if he didn't put something on that island, then Orzas would be able to just dump a Peltist on that island completely uncontested. And if he did put a unit out there, Orzas could just skip the island entirely. So here, if Orzas puts his Peltist out on that island, it's going to be 1v1ing against the undead Legionnaire, which is bad. And so now Basilllisk has control over the map here, forcing it closer into a straight 4v4. He was thinking about placing on that center island. We saw that play yesterday. I don't remember which match it was, but we saw that play yesterday where somebody put their undead Legionnaire out on that, or they put a unit out on that island, and it took forever for it to get in, and at the end it wasn't even impactful any longer. A full teleport team would be pretty crazy. I think at the level 15 bracket, I think people are kind of sleeping on the affinity beasts and their hypermobility and large AoEs, and also their survivability from the heavies. They have innate face, so they can't be backstabbed. So you could teleport them right into the middle of the enemy team and then just use Greater Blast and blow up on everybody. We're going to see the crowd up. Crowd meters in Ragnaroks received a significant buff. There were a few bug fixes to them, but also the buff in general. That is a massive crowd meter buff right there. That's INI boost. That's going to be attack boost. I think the next one's affinity boost. And then the highest tier one is crit boost. Nope. Damage reduction. And then the very top one is crit damage boost. Are we going to see a cry of anger here? Unfortunately, the Peltist is not going to get cry of angered. That's a miss on the meter as well. I think better placement would have been swapping the Cyclops and the Yeti so the Yeti could cry of anger the Peltist, but afraid to move the Cyclops. He doesn't want to get caught out in a out of position trap. The bear going to face the Peltist is actually not in Basilisk's favor because the Peltist can throw over the top of that bear at that Secutor. Personally, I think the Secutor is a little bit more of a problem. We're going for the double crowd pleaser, probably Mary Jig next turn. This is going to be a full stack crowd meter. That's going to be crit damage up. This Yeti is going to be slapping. I believe it's 1.5x crowd damage, or crit damage. It says attack damage plus, but I'm fairly certain it's crit damage plus. This Secutor can be very easily bursted down by a good throw. That chain collar's coming in with a little bit of damage reduction on the end. I think this Secutor needs to go down quick and early because they have poison, and at this point of the game, everyone's level 10. They got about 200 to 250 max HP. That 20 poison per turn on that blade can actually be pretty annoying. That undead summoner actually does have a revive mechanic due to the fact that it's using it based off an accessory. Oof. That Undead Legionnaire has a crit bonus. When they crit, they'll apply a 60 health over 2 turn poison. Digging for the Exploding Javelin. It's a little bit of AoE team damage. If Basilisk continues to run in like they are, their Frost Breath on their Yeti is probably going to wreck this team. That's huge damage across the entire map there. I think we're going to see an early skeleton summon. The crowd meter can go up and over the meter, so there's actually like, I don't remember what the arbitrary limit is, so there's a few turns where Orzas can kind of turtle out and not lose his crowd buffs. I think this is a mistake to move the Yeti this close. He's now out of position, and that Secutor is going to be looking hungry. Don't want your Yeti to get surrounded. Unfortunately, if that Cyclops moves up one more tile, that Secutor is going to be able to get a free backstab on the side. Oh, backstab. A free side stab off. Skeleton 3 can't quite make it to the party. Basilisk is going to decide to hold on to it. The Cyclops did not move as early as it possibly could have there, which actually works out in Orzas' favor. It looks like Basilisk might try to do a block move here to stop the Cyclops from getting closer, but that actually sets yourself up for a little bit more damage than you're expecting. A continue. Interesting. Oh, there's the side stab. Blind, not nearly as effective in this game mode as it is in meterless. The accuracy stat just does not matter at all in this game mode. It doesn't, I don't even think that gives slow. Oh, okay, it does. Oh, I hit the wrong button. It actually does give slow turn. I could not read it that fast. This Cyclops is actually quite tanky. That Vicious Slash, which is 5 SP, was only going to do about a third of his health. Petrified and slow turned. Little devastating. Bullseye is indirect fire. It has an indirect fire style ability in this game, so if Orzas wanted to, he could hit that Secutor. I believe you have to get the Secutor down. Not everybody completely familiar with the meter changes. A lot of people are going to get held up on the alternate meter where the meter does not decrease. You have to hit it exactly the number of times possible in the window, or else it will fizzle. That one's a new addition most people have not seen if they haven't gotten that far through a Rags game. All of the matching meters also receive some quality of life buffs. That's going to be the Secutor down. Frost Breath, not quite close enough to hit the undead, but still 75% chance to freeze for 2 turns. I might need to look at Yetis after this, because almost every other freezing spell in the game has it adds a buff to enemy units when you apply it to them that makes so they can't be frozen again for one of their own turns, so that way they're guaranteed to get at least a turn off. This is one of the new quadrometers. 130 damage. I believe the bear's chain collar does not give it straight damage reduction. I believe it's physical damage reduction, so that spell damage is going to be coming in really clutch. Basilllisk, a little bit gummed up. Grave Laughter's good play. A little bit gummed up here by the Dead Secutor and the Frozen Bear. Can't really get in, but the Peltus is still able to throw over the top. Oh, the Yeti and the Cyclops got a little backed up there for a moment. Not quite. I need to have a skill list pulled somewhere. I believe Hair of the Dog is either a heal. Yeah, status cleanse. There we go. That, by the way, that Cyclops was petrified and still did a backstep. Man is on the grind. Undead Skeleton coming in. That's the first summon, probably of many. Big damage from the Satyr, even though that's light to medium. Mary Jig coming in for the I boost. 40% for 3 turns. And that's a miss on the meter. Orzas a little unsure of what to do here. I actually think that Bullseye, if I was looking at that correctly, does a fairly okay amount of damage to that Undead Legionnaire. Not nearly as much as you'd like it to, but a little bit. The only problem with this movement here is there's a chance that that Undead Legionnaire decides that they want to move in front of the Peltus and block out the shot. Are we going to see a second Ice Breath here? I believe this Yeti also has Heretic, so he can get more spells off in a timely manner. This might be a back-to-back freeze combo. Oh, that's a one-shot on that Undead Legionnaire. I think they might be looking to see if he's got whatever the poison after death move is. Sickly Marrow. That's the one. Let's see if the bear gets insta-refrozen here. That is... They do get insta-refrozen. Dispersant Beam is a one-shot on the Undead lead melee. Really heavily thinking about it, knowing that Basilisk will just summon another one next turn. Honestly, at this point, you have the ability. You probably just run past the bear and try to get to these Undead. That Cyclops, being a heavy, will do a lot of work against the Undead. Bear's going to go down. We're now in a 2v4 situation. I think Orzas' tactic is a little bit more potent at these lower levels with the AoE damage and the choke point hold. Basilisk team in the meterless tournament yesterday with Undead kind of centered around using the Undead who had one or multiple revives to get in there. But at the higher levels, the I differences are less stark. As the units level up, they get flat I, and at lower levels, it's more potent because a Satyr will have 40 I and a medium unit will have 10, which is significantly different than at higher levels, a Satyr having 140 and an Undead Legionnaire having 110. Thinking about the Fire Cloud. flipping through the menu options here. You can see at the level 10, you can tell when people have picked more passive effects versus castable abilities, because with the limited amount of JP you have at this level, you're either going in on attacks or you're going in on passives. You're probably not having enough JP to do both. This Heavy Claw is going to smack this skeleton in the next year. Nope, it's going to be another Frost Breath. I believe the skeleton has a revive. I don't remember if I saw it, though. Nope. Only the Undead Summoner has a revive, and now they are all alone. The bodies are going to give them maybe 1 or 2 more turns of protection before they fall off, and that Cyclops is just going to go running right in there. For people that are very familiar with their controller, those matching meters are all but trivial in order to complete. That is a lot of damage coming out of this Peltis. That was definitely a trivial matching meter with all Ys across the board. Remembering that this Undead Summoner does have a revive, but this Undead Skeleton summon is not going to be helping out. Orzas looking for the Dispersion Beam. The body clears up just after the Cyclops turn. He can't get through. He's already got I&I buffs. Not much more he can do. They don't stack. I actually think killing the Undead Melee here is a misplay. It would give Basilllisk the opportunity to summon another one to gum up the choke point. There is also a cheese play to be had here where Basilllisk uses teleport to jump to the center island and then just continues to summon skeletons for the next 30 years. This Peltis is going to come and tap the skeleton and at least knock off his revive mechanic. Oh. Skeleton's I&I might not be high enough. If he can get a turn off, he's going to be able to teleport off onto that center island. Well, maybe. I can't actually, I don't remember the range of this Undead Summoner's teleport. It might not actually be able to reach that center island. He's going to look through. He's going to summon the skeleton. Dispersion Beam out of that Cyclops kills both the skeleton and his summon. The Exploding Javelin cost 4 SP. He would have at least had a couple of turns of solace before he had enough, but this being this close, the Dispersion Beam is just an insta-kill. 647 damage out of the Cyclops. I don't think the teleport to the center would have won, but there is precedent that there's a possibility you can drag it out a little bit longer. We're going 1-0 Orzas coming into this. Basilllisk has already secured a position in the finals for the meterless tourney, so if they end up getting beaten out today, it's not the end of the world. They'll still have the capability to go through with the tournament on meterless side. Let's see what they're picking here. Basilllisk has pick and also has first character pick due to being the map picker. Honestly, as we saw from yesterday, Alta Haroon Ruins, very P2 favored. Oh, someone's... They're asking me questions in the chatting channel there. They're having questions about who should be able to drive this around. They're digging through the maps. Basilllisk is a little bit more familiar with some of the maps after they played 4 matches yesterday with Leonarth. A little bit of a leg up in terms of map variety. No one's picked Usit yet, but also nobody has the amount of ranged characters that would make Usit useful. Stadium Dryas could be good for... I still think Stadium Dryas might be a little bit Orzas favored due to the fact that he's got 2 ranged units. but the Skelly Squad likes to get down and dirty right in the middle of the map, and this map is very down and dirty with one spectacular portion of high map. Just pass them a little more information there. So Basilllisk is going to get first pick on this. You can see the striped pole, and then up at the top there's a little 1v1. Whoever, if someone wins the 1v1, or if they gentleman handshake it, there is a spot up there where a ranged character can just sit and rain hellfire down on the lower category. Saving the undead summoner pick for later. We're all fairly certain Basilllisk will take it because every single match so far Basilllisk has taken the undead summoner. Centurion, pretty strong. We saw yesterday the ability to cleanse effects, heal, and motivate your allies makes them very strong, especially with how much HP the heavies have. The Sakari actually has an insane amount of health as well. Seeing the return of the Yeti. Yeti Satyr run back. Orzas kind of goading Basilllisk, kind of begging them to take more undead. Sam Knight might come through, maybe? I think you have to be careful about your I here. The Satyr can boost pretty much everybody on the team's I by 40%, and also with crowd bonus. That's nearly, probably close to a 70% I boost. You got to be careful filling up your team with all these heavy units, or heavily armored units, because they will not have the initiative to compete. The Yeti and the Satyr both do not wear armor, so their initiative is incredibly high for their level. Well, artificially. Seeing the Cyclops return, is this just going to be a run back of match one's team? I don't know if Basilllisk has an answer for it. Will we see the Uses pick? Mongrel's potent, more potent at level 15 due to having helmet options. It looks like... Are we going to see the return of the undead summoner? Oh, he's going with the other undead summoner. I actually don't believe there's a difference between them. Interesting. I actually don't believe there's a difference between the undead summoners on Basilllisk's team. I believe they are the same exact build. Orzas' team just looking so good against these undead, although with the double light unit, it kind of puts you at a moderate disadvantage to the 3 mediums that will be coming out. Although all of the undead will just get slapped. We see the Usus pick out of Orzas. Usus himself. Oh no, they pulled it back. An ogre would actually be huge here, because having 2 light units, there's a lot of buffs that get passed around. Death Knight is a little tricky to use because the undead have an innate defense against Dark Affinity, if I'm remembering correctly. If it gets down to a battle of attrition, I don't know if that Death Knight can dole out enough damage against the 3 undead, 4 undead. There's a lot of alliteration in there. They're thinking they might be rock paper scissoring to see who's got first placement. Now, red does have a moderate advantage on this map. If you place in that very first stripe where Basilllisk just placed a unit, you actually have the potential to get a quarter to half a map height adjustment, which in this game, terrain height gives an advantage on damage and hit chance. If you can goad the enemy team to backing up one more tile, you can cause a lot of havoc, especially if you have something like the Yeti who wants to, you can move them back 1 tile or get slightly up onto that height and then just frost breath down on these undead. Yeti with a running attack could get up and around these units and just breathe on them from behind, or even just breathe straight in the front. We might just see the slap fest right in the middle, toe to toe, swing them up, which would be extremely in favor for Orzas. Oh, something's happening here. Oh, they actually hit the wrong button. A toe-to-toe fight is extremely in favor for Orzas due to the fact that Dispersion Beam hits in a cone, and Frost Breath and Icy Breath also hit in a cone. The Berserker AoE, Roots, Fears, and Stuns are also AoE. They hit in a full diamond ratio. Satyr also has AoE Flame Breath. This map may be a bad choice for Basilllisk. He's thinking about putting his unit up on that top and remembers that he'll probably get destroyed by the Satyr. Looks like someone keeps accidentally hitting the B button. Grabbed the wrong unit there, it looks like. If this Satyr gets placed down on the lower level, you might be able to put the Undead Summoner up on the top, goad that Knight into coming up with it, and then just teleporting down to the lower area, and then it's going to take that Death Knight forever to get down onto the lower battlefield. And on top of the fact, using a dark weapon against the Undead Summoner is going to do negligible damage at best. I believe that may be the play that Basilllisk is looking for, if he knows about the damage reduction against Dark. We'll see if he pulls up there. People are looking in the uses channel at the differences between the Dark Affinity and for undead melees and for undead casters. Casters do take reduced damage from the Dark, and the undead melees just don't receive more damage from Dark as they would any other affinity. Going into match 2 here. I honestly still believe that the fact that Basilllisk is going all in on Bony Squad might be a bit of a detriment. This is extremely favored for the Satyr. You can either buff your entire team from this position or Flame Breath straight in and hit 3 people. Digging around in his opponent's abilities here to see what they've got. A lot of bonuses on this undead melee, but that's because they're within specific range of an undead summoner. Regen on death. Yeah, the ad break was perfectly timed for starting the match. Just kicking it off with the Crowd Charmer. Huge crowd bonuses. A good yell here, if he's got Fear or Petrify yells, will just absolutely obliterate Basilllisk's team. I think you should be digging for CC here if you have it. Oop, I hit the wrong button. Be digging for CC here if you have it. Should not be looking for damage. Going for the damage anyway. Might be trying to goad into getting the Berserker low enough to start going crazy. Frost Breath actually insane here. I believe you go for the higher tier one and just really knock him down. I actually think if you turn to the side, I think you can hit the Minotaur, both the Legionnaires, and the Undead Summoner with that Frost Breath instead of hitting just these 2 units. I believe that it could have been much more devastating than it was. Basilllisk not sure what to do here. Looks like maybe Orzas has a little bit of damage reduction on some of his units. This Minotaur is not hitting as hard as he wants it to. If he has Supreme Critical, it will bypass a little bit of that damage reduction. Yeah, not hitting nearly as hard as he was expecting it. Dispersion beam here goes absolutely insane. This might be a quick match. Oh, we're not getting the dispersion beam. As we saw yesterday out of section, a all-out blitz into AoE abilities can just go absolutely insane versus piled up team comps. Maybe seeing a flame breath here. This kills 2 units and lowers the health of a third. It's showing that these magic teams are quite potent against undead teams. The Yeti may be slightly overtuned and looking to get nerfed for next patch. Very funky combo meter here. Pulled it off pretty much without a hitch. This is looking like a quick 2-0 out of Orzas. I changed sleep. All of the channeler abilities do not have spam freeze. I'm going to change the Yeti to not allow spam freeze either. Not that it really mattered. It seems the damage on the Yeti's spam freeze is very high. Looking for the teleport. There's honestly a precedent. If you placed him closer to that wall, he could have teleported up in the upper section and just forced Orzas to go on the merry run of his life. I do not believe Basilllisk has an out here. I believe this is just going to be about 10 to 15 minutes of Orzas trying to chase this guy down. And then finally catching him and immediately getting teleported away from again. Skelly 1 coming through. The Berserker might actually have the initiative to catch up to this undead summoner. Not enough SP to teleport, but he will drop a skeleton somewhere in the path. Does Orzas? I think he just continued, just keep sprinting. Yeah, the I differences is just way too in favor of Orzas' team right now. I believe this undead summoner does have a revive. Not that it will matter too much, but you could drag it out for longer, I suppose. I do wonder. I'm going to assume that Orzas did not put any CC abilities on this Berserker in the special tab. More than likely, the only thing that's in there is Rage. I think that having Yowl, which is a pretty low cost, it's like 2 or 4 JP. It just does like a root or a it's either a root or it's a fear AoE, like 2 tile diamond. We're gonna get the revive out of the undead summoner here. Oh, that's just death. No revive on this summoner. That is a quick 2-0. All right, that's a quick 2-0. I'm gonna pull Orzas in here. We're gonna have a quick post-game chat, and that will be the matches for today. There should be 2 matches coming on tomorrow. I believe they are both best of 5. We'll pull Orzas in here real quick. Hello.
Hello. Wait, was I just in the interviews?
Yeah, I named the channel interviews, but it's not actually for interviews all the time. Don't worry
Gotcha.
about it.
Cool.
Anyway, very nice plays out of there. It seemed like maybe Basilisk's pick of Undead for both matches in a row kind of played into your favor a little bit more. Um, were you were you expecting that, or?
I did watch the games yesterday, so I had a suspicion he might go with Skelly armies again, but you know, I wanted to see. I I picked the Satyr first just to see what he would pick next, and it looked like he wanted to go Skelly army, so it's like, all right, I'll pick spell attackers then.
There was a moment in there where you had Eustace on your pick roster and then put it back on the bench, and the chat was very sad. Was there a reason you passed him back down?
It's just not time for uses yet. He'll show his glory in the semifinals.
The only it seemed pretty one-sided in the situation with the Yetis, just so much damage. Picking Stadium Drias, there was a position, I'm not sure Basilisk saw it. There was a position where all you had left for your choices was Death Knight, and all he had was Undead Summoner. Are either or both of you aware that in a 1v1 scenario, the Death Knight may actually not win that against the Undead Summoner due to the Undead Summoner taking severely reduced damage from opponents with dark weapons?
I actually didn't know the Death Knight would do reduced damage against the Undead Summoner. I
Yeah.
was saving him in case he would try to go Undead Summoner on the top platform, but he
So
didn't. So
if
that might
he,
have turned out differently if he
yeah,
did.
yeah. So the thing is, he could have gone up there, and because you have a dark weapon equipped, it would have done like 50 or 75% reduced damage on top of fleshless targets reduction. The Death Knight could have just been up there doing nothing, and then if the situation looked dicey, he could have always teleported down, and then the Death Knight's left holding the bag, taking a 6-turn walk down to the lower platform. So that was the only shaky pick at the end, but it seems like maybe there was a knowledge gap perhaps on both of your ends, but it's how it is. There's a lot of things to remember in this game. You can't remember every passive on every single character.
Yeah, my thinking is the Death Knight was just the only pick that I had that had the summon, so I figure if he's up top, then he might get a chance to summon a skeleton at the bottom. But I guess it all worked out in the end, so oh well.
Yeah, it's future knowledge. But yeah, the last question I had is, does your Berserker under their special tab, I saw it had Rage. Did it have any of the screams like Yowl, Fear Shout, or anything like that?
I think I gave my Berserker Yowl, but I didn't really give them many of the other shouts.
Yeah, the only reason I asked was that at one point you were in the entire middle of the enemy team, and using Yowl, you would have either rooted or feared or petrified. I can't remember which one it is. You would have done some sort of CC to like 4 people, but instead you decided to axe throw at the Centurion. Was there a specific reason for that, or was it just burst her down so she can't be a problem?
Just burst her down, apply some poison, and then maybe focus on the Minotaur next.
Hmm. That Minotaur's damage was not nearly as high as all of us were expecting. I think it seemed little
Yeah,
knocked
I
down.
think I think he wanted to take out my Yeti, but he just didn't have time.
When he got up to the Yeti on running attack on a crit, he only ended up doing about 90 damage, so I don't think it was nearly as high as he was hoping for. I think that your team's AoE damage was just absolutely unstoppable in this match. How are you feeling after you saw the qualifier matches yesterday between Section and Mystic? Let's see who you're up against. When you move up, you will be against Rinny in the semifinals. Do you see any weaknesses in your own team going forward? Is there anything you're afraid, since you're not quite sure what the other teams have? Is there anything that you're fearful of going forward, like a team comp that you think would be able to knock yours down, or do you feel like you're pretty well rounded?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like counterattacks would be a problem. That was what I was worried about with his bear in the first match, was like, this is going to be a really tanky bear, and every time I try hitting it, it's going to just knock back with counterattacks. So being able to spell damage the bear from a distance seemed like it worked out, but I think if they had like immunities to Frozen and Fear, then I wouldn't really be able to stay at a distance as well.
That seems correct. All right, well, you will be back, I believe, tomorrow. I think we've got 2 matches tomorrow, back to back, 2 best of 5s tomorrow. So, congratulations for winning today. You'll be up against Rinny tomorrow at, it looks like 3:30 p.m. Pacific. If you have time constraints on that, we can shift it around a little bit, but you'll be back then, and best of luck to you then, and congratulations again for today.
Thanks.
Alrighty. I'm going to push you down to the interviews channel, and I'm going to wrap up the stream here. That was all the matches we had today. Thank you, people who came out to watch today. I'll start editing down the YouTube videos from yesterday, get them up on the channel either today or tomorrow. Depends when I have time. That was the only match we had today, was that qualifier best of 3. We'll have 2 best of 5s tomorrow back to back. 1 set of matches best of 5 on Thursday. No matches Friday, and we'll be back for both finals on Saturday. The schedule's in the Discord. If you got any questions, feel free to @me. And thank you again for coming out, and we will see everybody tomorrow.